Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grateful Not Greedy podcast. My name is Kris, and I am here with my very timely, very sensitive, and well-versed co-host, and her name is,
Rachel. Thank you, Kris.
I should also add that she's an expert goal setter and, miraculous manifester, and on and on and on and on and on.
Well, the same thing for you.
Oh,
Same thing
gracias.
for you.
Muchas gracias. Okay. So today, Rachel, I have been reflecting how crazy it is that we started this podcast and we just started it. We just said we just have to start it. We just have to take that first step to get on the moon, basically. It seemed like it was an insurmountable task, even though, as I said, I'd had this on my calendar, on my mark from years ago, from 2023, right? So years ago. And then we said, okay, let's just start. And then we just recorded our first episode. And as I mentioned before, we do have some training in this speaker arena. However, it's still a massive undertaking to do a project like this. It's a lot. So we said at the beginning, I said, let's just start it. Let's just record. And we recorded our first episode about the lobster. The whole thing was hilarious. I still think it's hilarious. Hopefully everyone else got as much, joy out of that than I did. Well, and I had both sides of it, right? But now we said, okay, let's just get in a certain amount of episodes, right? Let's just get those in under our belt. And then we're going to assess where we are, how it's going, what we want to do differently, et cetera. So ironically, Rachel, it is now, today, our 20th episode that we are recording. And we said, let's record 20. Let's get in there. Let's record 20. And then let's assess where we are. So let's take a trip down our months of memory lane and kind of go through these episodes and do a little assessment and a little recap. If any of you are just joining us on the Grateful Not Greedy podcast, you might not have listened to every episode. You might not be up to date. So you can kind of see where you might want to catch up and things you might want to go back to and listen to, just like we will, I think, even in doing this recap
Yes.
of, what have we learned? I've learned an insane amount by doing this podcast and by reflecting on these topics in a very intentional way. So I'm hopeful that that can be true for anyone else listening and following along with us. So what do you think about that?
I do think it's amazing that you're like, let's just start. And we started, and we had no
Yeah.
idea it was exactly 20 weeks till the end of the year.
Exactly. I know, exactly. And then we're like, let's do a recap episode. And then we realized it's 20 episodes that we're doing our recap
Yeah.
episode when it's
And it's,
natural that we would do a recap at this time.
yeah. And I think that, that always told me like we're definitely in the flow of things here,
Right.
that things line up.
Even then, yes,
Yeah.
in the flow of things. Yeah.
And, to your point is, we weren't ready, but we did it
No,
anyways. And
we were
I think
not.
that is like the perfection is my enemy often because I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not ready. It's not perfect yet. And I'm like, what? Let's just throw it at the wall for a minute and
That's
see what
right.
sticks,
Yeah,
right?
it's spaghetti marketing. Throw it at the wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah.
But even so, that's even super subjective. Are you ready? How do you know you're ready if you're
You don't.
not in progress, right? And for someone like me, you are the same. I'm a doer. I can
Mm.
evaluate by action. So if you haven't done it, you don't know if you're ready. Are you ready to
Yeah.
get that job? Are you ready to get married? Are you ready to have a child? Are you ready to, sell all your stuff and travel around the world? I'm sure those people who do that are not ready,
Hmm.
right? I mean, I'm sure it's
Yeah.
just completely nerve-wracking for all of
Yeah.
us who are starting new things and starting new projects. So, yeah,
Good
in
point.
no shape or form were we ready, other than the fact that we love to talk to each other, we love to chat, and we had a working theme of Grateful Not Greedy. That's it. That's the genesis. So
Yeah.
we started. Go ahead.
And I can say like you said this and I agree, like the idea of approaching these topics and just going through them has me focus more in on what is it I'm doing, how is that working, and then even afterwards the ripple effect of diving in
Yes.
deeper and then going
Mhm.
back and listening and experiencing again, like this is a beautiful growth process. And it's been fun to go back and look at all the episodes because I'm like, wow, we've grown so much since then, and so much has changed. I'm like actually excited to talk about some of these episodes again because I'm like, and there's more. You think we covered it all? There's
And
more.
update. Yeah, rewind. But you're so right because even in just going through the processing, I love what you said about the post, there's still the trickle effect, we finish an episode and we've yammered on about it and we're like, "Okay, that's yay, we had that chat." But even after that, I'm still reflecting, and oftentimes even on the pod, I'll say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go after this pod," and I legitimately do, and make my drawing or do my assessments
Mhm.
or find my word of the year, for instance, which I have now done. So there are capture points, and then we can kind of figure out where all of these things land. And again, I hope it's helpful for everyone following along, because these topics the themes are so large. We even talked about doing an episode thematically, like how could we break
Mhm.
this into themes? And I even think the themes are so large that it's just
Yeah.
fun to go back, and we're gonna give everyone a 411 on these episodes, and you can decide which episode you wanna either listen to the first time, listen to on 2 point, to double time speed, listen to half of it, whatever. But there are a lot of good things. And again, I will say, as I've been saying, it's so helpful if you subscribe. It's so helpful if you follow us along. It's so helpful if you engage with us on Instagram or on our Facebook page or any of those outlets, so that we can be creating this content in a way that's suitable for all of us. And I believe generally we have a pretty good read on people and how growth happens, personal growth happens. But it's also so edifying to hear from other people specifically. Hey, did you get that rental property? Which we'll talk about today. I will tell you everything. Did you get that rental property, or how did that go? Or did you stop, regretting your finance decision? Or what have you done about that? Or is your son now driving? Did he have any accidents? Whatever, whatever. So here's the update. Here we go. So let's go. Episode 1, Rachel. Do you remember what it was called? I remember what it was about.
Well, it was like buy or not buy the rock lobster one, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
And why the lobster should be our mascot. Why the lobster should be the grateful,
Oh,
not
we
greedy
it's gotta shed its
mascot.
shell,
Yes.
right?
That's the lobster. And okay, that's actually a very funny story, because as maybe everyone doesn't know, we do not script these conversations. Sorry to say, I to talk about not ready. No, but I think it's not that we're not prepared. We just don't script them so that they have an opportunity to flow through, like literally flow through in real time as we're evaluating and as we are pontificating and ruminating and mulling and all those things. So the lobster, you kinda threw me for a loop. And just remind everyone the lobster story, because you just blow my mind with that. I was like, first of all, I didn't know that about lobsters. I still am like, Googling, "Is she right? Is that true? Do they really do that?"
Yeah.
Also being really, truly, that is it's so ironic, because as our first episode, that lobster is a great mascot for how to think about grateful, not greedy. So
Mhm.
give us the rundown on the lobster.
Okay, so in order for a lobster to grow, it has to lose its shell. The shell does not grow with it. So it has to shed its shell. And once it loses its shell, it's very soft and it's actually not as safe, like it's not as secure, not as safe because it can be eaten a little bit easier or it's just exposed. And the new shell will come as it's outgrown it, the new shell will form. But there's a period of time that it is very vulnerable. And I just think it's like nature continues to teach us so many important lessons. And I love looking at nature to have an explanation of what's going on within me and around me. That I think nature is like so intelligent, can give us so much information. And that one really stuck with me. And my brain holds these random pieces of information.
We're gonna call you, like, random thought instead of random task. Is that but it
Totally.
was perfect. Okay, it was perfect, just to remind everyone, in case you missed the first episode, that was about my complete, angst and fear and trepidation about buying a rental property, which we all know, like, everyone in my inner circle knew it's the right decision to make. However, it was, terrifying, like,
Yeah.
terrifying. Just a really difficult decision to make.
Well, and you had to let go of some of your nuts, right? Like we were talking about
So
squirrel
many
with the
nuts.
nuts,
Yeah,
right?
my little
And
squirrel nut. Yeah, that's right, we talked about that,
yeah.
yeah, mhm.
And so, but what is the update? Like,
Well,
what
I will tell you
happened?
that, yes, in fact, we did buy that property,
Ooh.
and yes, in fact, I have been able to turn it into it's still a work in progress, Rach. I mean, these are massive tasks, and what I learned in that was so many things. One is taking that scary step, and that y the you'll something will catch you. You don't know what that is. It might be yourself. It might be you out there with your big old butterfly net, whatever. You don't know. But something will catch you if you need it. And for me, I did not anticipate, because I have skills in certain areas. I was extrapolating those skills to be applicable in this arena, which they are. However, I was still on a massive learning curve, so I still was like 51st dates. Like, oh, now I need to learn about an LLC. Oh, I need to learn about this state thing. Oh, now I need to learn about this insurance. Oh, now I need to learn about what kind of bed do you buy for a furnished, rental. Oh, I need to learn about the on and on and on and on. And so it's not even tactically getting all the legal systems in place, but then getting all the personal systems in place. Like, what would you want if you were gonna rent my place? What would you enjoy? Like that kind of stuff. Setting up my own internet, setting up my own smart TVs, going by and cleaning up the leaves, because I have to, I'm super involved in this place, right? So I'm cleaning, I'm doing my own sheets, I'm doing my own everything, right? So taking on a project like that and then realizing how far it goes. I feel like this is a good conversation when you have people in your life who have a lot of wisdom, and they can impart that wisdom to you, to listen to the wisdom, because so it's almost an immature response to say like, "Oh, I got it. I got it. I can totally do this." And I can. I mean, I'm a, a grown woman. I can do this. But it was helpful to look at so many YouTube videos and get the advice from so many people who have forged this path before. And granted, you have to put it together in all sorts of different, it's your own playbook, right? So you're putting together these plays all different ways, not the same way that one person could just give you the manual. But I've learned so much and I've grown so much, and I've definitely gone through that lobster shell metamorphosis probably 5 or 6 times just in the last 5 months, having that property and going through the whole experience. And it also, just like we were talking about in one of our other pods about, I do races, I put things in front of myself just to build confidence and continue, showing myself that I can do things. But this gave me the template for, oh, this is how I do it. So when I'm ready to do the next one, or I'm ready to rent my own house out and do some kind of a different play, I'm more metal, if you will, to do that. And that was a great learning experience. And like I said, even if I have to sell it tomorrow, I've really, honestly, because of listening to you, it's like, listen to yourself. You're sitting here, talking about grateful, not greedy, grateful, 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 grateful to have these opportunities to grow, grateful to grow in a way and doing a project that I've never done, even though I've been a landlord. I've, had long-term rentals. I have built my, different things to rent. I've done lots of stuff. I have not done this in this way. So it's very cool, to kind of to layer that in. And so even just in reflecting for anyone listening, that important lesson we can take to any aspect of life, to just, if all the signs are coming to you that you're going to be okay, you can do this, do it. And then just keep asking for support, whether that's in this physical life, or if you believe in some spiritual life, whatever you got going on, support wise, grab it all. And yeah, and then just keep trudging on, because there are points when you want to quit, for sure, where you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's so much work. I didn't anticipate this. I'm doing it between pickups and drop-offs and breakfasts and dinners and working and this, I'm trying to get all this work done. So it's been a really good experience, but not because it wasn't hard. And it still is hard. It's still a lot. I still have to file all my taxes and do all that. I mean, honestly, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Yay. So that was that. So update yet? It's stressful. I highly advise it if just like for you, your rental properties, the signs are there that it makes sense to do. It's super stressful. You have to get through it, and you have to get to the other side. But the other side is not a panacea either. You're just constantly a little bit in the struggle, and you have to embrace the struggle. Embrace it. Grateful that I have some opportunities.
It's amazing. Wow. Well, congratulations. Good work.
Thank you. Yes. Well, still ongoing, I'm still ongoing, but yes, that's been good. Okay, so that brings us to Control Alt Delete, which is our next episode, and that was about my mistakes. Again, all about me. And not in a positive way. Because I thought I erased our whole studio, which I in fact did. But the upside of that was I did erase it, but I I mean, it's obviously my fault, but they did have it on the back end after I was like, "Hey," and I thankfully had sent it to myself and maybe I'd sent you a link or something like that. So we were able to get back our studio. But that lesson, I don't know if you got the same lesson that I did. That lesson for me was don't hold on to what's gone. If
Mm,
that's gone, let it go. Like, let
yeah.
it go. And as we even talked about in that episode, it was very upsetting because it just happened. You're like, "Hey, let's record that." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds awesome, Rach. I'm just super amazing mood to talk about this. Yeah, let's totally do that." So so we're recording, and I'm like, "Grr, grr, grr." Um, but it really did teach me, even in that moment, like, heck, and like, as you said, stakes aren't high. We didn't write the the big, essay on life and this is the only copy or anything like that. So we had options, and that one really pushed me into the let it go frame, which I have embraced even in the last many months because it's an area of growth for me for sure. It's just to when something is where it is in reality, let it go. Granted, you're like, as you well said on that pod, send the email, try and get the back trying to see where you can, make up for that if it's possible to get the studio, which we were able to, but also just be comfortable in the gone. That doesn't exist. You can't ruminate on this. It's gone. Like,
Yeah.
don't as you've said so many times on this pod too, don't do the self-inflicted suffering by beating yourself up or by saying what a mistake or I'm such a dummy or they're so wrong, why is it like that? It is. It is what it is. And what it is at that moment was gone. Now it's back. But even so, like we would have lost the lobster, which would have been sad. But but also from that, I gained a lot. I gained a lot about the mistake and about letting the mistake be a mistake and not just moving on. Moving on. That's that. And trying to obviously don't make the same mistake twice. I would say that for yourself, relationships, whatever. Just try not to do the same system. Create a new
Mhm.
system, something that has it different and try not to do that twice.
Yeah. Yes, and, for that, I think you said it. This is what I got a lot from too, is like I end up beating myself up more than needs to happen. I mean, we're human, and I always look at how would I if my son did it or you did it, like I'm like, I understand that
Right.
stuff happens. But when I do it myself, like, talk about beating myself up. So it was really helpful for me. And to watch you move through it was also a really awesome experience through that conversation. And I give you credit for just being like, okay, let's talk about it. Cause that's
I know,
uncomfortable.
seriously.
Talk about like,
Uncomfortable, and also we just started, and so I'm like, "Hey, Rach, we could totally do this," and I'm like, "Oh, shoot, maybe we can't." I don't even know. I don't even know if we can do this. What am I saying? As you said, we're not ready. Okay, we're really not ready, it's all
uh,
those doubts and fears and all that stuff, so let it go. That's the end of that, moving on. Okay, so then we came to which was very fun because, these episodes, we got to be in the studio together, which almost never
mm,
happens, but that was awesome. Very fun to talk about the transition from being an Uber driver, parent chaperone to a free bird, free woman, do whatever the heck you want. Your kid will get there somehow, give them a load of transportation and off you go. So that was all you. And that was a really fun episode. I think I learned a lot even from listening to you in that episode.
yeah, it's so funny. It's like now my life, I cannot imagine my son not having a license, like, our
Right? It's
lives
like, oh, yes, you see it so
flow.
quickly.
Yeah, and it just, like, settles right in, and it seems very natural, and to update everybody, he's an amazing driver, he's very responsible, he's, like, probably one of the few friends that has a car and drives his friends around, and, like, to the point where, um, he's so well trusted, one of my friend moms says, like, "Oh, I have, like, a meeting during this time, can you come get my kids and take 'em to school?" So he's, like, he's his own Uber driver now. And what that says to me is, like, he's also trustworthy, that another mom trusts her 2 kids with him to take them to school, yeah, it's been good. I do still miss the time in the car, and anytime we're in the car together, it's like, oh, so nostalgic, but I can see how much joy it brings him and the independence it gives him, stepping outside, and it's been a great experience, and what I do know is not only I lost my Uber mom title, you just lost yours.
Yes, thankfully, I'm just as thankful as you are. I'm like, "Oh, did I ever do that? Like, you've been driving for months, haven't you?" You know? And you watch him drive away those first couple of times, you're almost like, "Where the hell are you going? Like, what are you doing?" You know? It's like you forget, and they're, like, driving out of your driveway alone, and, like, waving at you, and you almost think, "Are you just being snarky? What the heck are you doing?" And then you remember, "Bing! Oh, wait, no, they could totally do this on their own." That's, like, not
Yeah.
even a problem. They have a license because it just happened. Yeah, and then you move into that zone, and so quickly from one day to the next, your life is completely different, and then it just keeps,
Yes.
like, evolving. For me, it's been, like, a week in this last moment, but yeah, it's an amazing process.
Yeah, it has been and has been, and after we finished, the Uber one, we went into the dating 31 flavors episode, which was, again, lucky to be in the studios together to do that one, and, it was, a little uncomfortable for me to go through, so I was like, "Okay, this is me, like, exposing a little bit of my, like, underside." But also really helpful, because what I didn't realize is how differently I view dating than other people do, and, um, and how we can make, this dating experience, it can feel different depending on how you enter it and what baggage you're carrying into it or what you views you're walking into, and it continues to frame how I meet people, it continues to frame how, I show up and what I look for when I meet someone, along the way. And it's just for me, it's definitely staying curious. And we hit on dating, like we'll get to it later. There's another dating one about like my first dates. And then we talked about then there's another one also that's coming up. And that one also talks about friends and how we're all dating. And it's interesting how they all link together, right? And how they all kind of the skills that you need in all of these apply across the board. So
What I loved about that dating episode, the 31 Flavors especially, is I have friends who are recently not even recently, just divorced or somehow, interested in dating for whatever they have going on in their lives, and, you were very inspiring in that whole segment. Very inspiring. I feel like I had, several friends like, "Oh, great. Oh, that's perfect. Oh, that's so helpful. Oh, I can think about it like that. Oh, I can do this." And it just got them to even have a crush for a week, find somebody like randomly that you can kind of just get that, remember who you are in real life when you're not pressed down by everything you have going on or your former belief system or I'm this age or I've got all these things going on or I'm working too hard or I'm not working, whatever it is. And I feel like that episode, if anyone is looking for kind of just a jump start in how do I even get out there if you're at the point where you're approaching dating or thinking about dating, I thought that was really, really helpful because as you said, your energy shifts. So if you present differently, things come at you differently, and that was clear in that pod for sure in 31 flavors that your energy had shifted and that was life was coming at you very differently. And that's a really important lesson for all of us. And that pod was really fun to do. It's fun. It was funny and not at your expense, Rach. Just it was just
no,
because
that's
it's
good.
like a crazy topic, right? Dating. I mean, it could literally be anything. And you have so many crazy dates and so many amazing dates, I guess, if you're out there dating. But, I thought it was very inspirational, honestly, just as a pod and just to give, especially women, but I'm sure the men can grab on to some ways of thinking about it and being comfortable with yourself out there in that whole experience for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So many topics.
So
You
many
wanna go?
topics, yeah, because then we moved on to talk about you and complaining about your mom. No, I'm kidding.
And I have to say for this one, you helped me frame it so well that I look at my mom, who's now 83. I look at my mom and I expect her to be her 50-year-old self, and that's just not possible. She is over 30 years older. I cannot. I need to let go of that
That's
idea.
correct. Yeah.
And that has helped me frame so many conversations with her, to kind of get me to see her for who she is now, not as I think who she should be. And that was
Yeah.
her, 30 years ago self, and that's not who she is.
Yeah.
And the
Or
remarkable
like who
part
you are. You're like, "Well, I can do this." You like, why are you just not doing this? Like,
yeah,
"Oh, because you have 30 years of different brain development than I do." Yeah. Yeah. She's not
exactly.
defective. She's just 80 something.
Yes. No, she's
Like,
not defective, and she is
you know,
very capable of doing so much, and I need to give her credit for that because also need to remember she is 83 and she is still living
mm,
independently alone. Her
oh,
mind
yeah,
is
it's amazing.
clear, she's very
She's got
determined, she's being
friends, she has a
physically
great social
active.
network, she works
Yes.
out. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible what she does.
I mean,
Yeah.
that woman, she is learning bridge right now. Like, who in their
Yes.
80s learn it's like a complicated game. I was just
Already
I'm like,
I'm not
"Wait."
even learning it now. Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, I know, and I'm like, "Good, she's
No.
keeping that brain active
Yeah.
and keeping it firing," and that one really, um, that hit home for the grateful, not greedy, right? Grateful she is independent and
Yeah.
clear-minded and, is still wanting to learn and grow and still wants to connect with people, and sometimes when she talks, I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and then I would just have to remember I'm grateful that she can at least she can
Grateful.
do this. Yeah.
Yeah, she's here. And remember, the funny part for me on that episode was that, "Rachel, we're gonna buy your mom that T-shirt that says, 'I'm the full package, grateful, not greedy.'" And so when she walks into your house, you're gonna be like, "She's the full package. That's right. She's a full package. She's not just this person who drives me nuts because she didn't finish this plan or she didn't, like, get the
Yes.
itinerary done or whatever. She is the full
Right.
package. She's all the amazing things and all which we all are. We all are, we're all these amazing things, and then there are also these couple things where we need support from the world to maybe, move forward a little bit, do a little bit better, on some things. So, yeah, full
Yeah.
package. That
She
was
is the
actually
full
a very fun
package.
episode.
Yeah,
She's
and
a
here's
full
the funny
package,
thing.
and
The funny thing is when we were talking about her, I was helping her get ready for her trip. So she went on her world tour, you know,
oh my gosh, right, exactly, good
right?
point.
She went
Look
on
this
her
up.
world tour. She did I think she said like 8, so many different flights. She went from like Hawaii to Philadelphia, to Minneapolis to Denver, Denver to Phoenix
Minnesota,
back
yeah,
home, all on her own, even like getting, rental cars and like all of that stuff. And she did it, and she did it all on her own, she did it all fine, she did it with her little wheelie suitcase and her other wheelie suitcase and, just got through everything, and she came back and she was like, "Whew, that was a trip." I'm like and she was gone for a long time, and it was really good for her, and even though it was a little crazy to get her organized to go, she said this, she's like, "I don't know how much longer I can do these kinds of trips," and it's true.
that's right.
It's
Yeah,
just
that's
like when we
true,
talk
right.
about the number of summers we have, the number of summers we
That's
have
right.
with our kids, whatever it is,
Yeah.
like, it's limited, and it reminded me absolutely, like, take advantage of that time.
Yeah, grateful, 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 not greedy that,
Yeah,
you have to help with that itinerary and you have to help with those plane flights and you have to help with the planning and you have to, yeah, 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 very grateful, grateful that you get to be part of that whole experience and she's amazing. And I'm so glad that she had a great trip. Yeah, and then we got to talk about my life regrets, which was awesome. Again, fantastic. My exposure to my life. And this was a hard one too because, and something really good came out of it though, but it was hard because I think even now, having done this pod and reviewing some of the other topics, and one of those that we did more recently about having it all and about the function of happiness and the mental load on women, and that's borne out in data. We're not just like making that up. That this life regret, I realized later. I held on to it then, and then I just thought, oh, let's just have this conversation about regret because I have this big regret about leaving finance in New York City and on the East Coast, and I'm still sitting here saying, like, I don't I don't not holding on to it as much, but I understand more even why that's coming up for me now, having done this other pod on the happiness, function and seeing how much pressure is on women, either through your careers or through your families or both, and how little room there is for error on either of those sides, and how we just push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves to make sure that we can do everything, and that's not realistic. So it was a good lesson for me to go through that with you. And then also at the end, I did get off that call and I did, write. I had my 3 big trees of the other big careers that I had. Because I left that finance job, I was able to do, some other really cool things. So I was able to put, 3 other big oak trees there and kind of put the branches around those, and then the people I met or the projects that I was able to do with those specific jobs, et cetera, and the little grass of, like, the little build up stuff that came from that. So I think that was really super helpful to do that and to go through that exercise, and even though it shows up as a regret, I can look at it as though there's all the things that came from those big trees, which was very helpful, and I think we're working on that even as a digital product because that's a helpful exercise in regret. That moved me a lot. That conversation moved me a lot, and like you said, so many of these topics build on each other, so the next time we're talking about something else that seems disparate or doesn't seem connected to, say, finance or regret, it links right back in there, so, yeah, there I was, right back in and understanding more because I'm in process of these conversations. Every time we have another pod, I have a greater understanding of everything that, I'm working on my personal growth cycle and just trying to be, in reality and dealing with what's in front of me. So, yeah, that was super helpful.
Mm, yeah, it was good, and I enjoyed that one a lot. Give me some really good insight into you that I didn't have, like, a different
Yeah,
part of
that's
you.
true, and that's kind of a good lesson even I think those of us who are parents that your kid you could talk to your kids about that, one of your big regrets in life or, as your kids are older on, maybe not when they're 8, but even so, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but just to kind of bring them a little bit more into your world, and that's something I'm thinking about now even to be more cognizant with my kids, to bring them into I'm a person. I'm actually a human being over here. I'm not just a driver, I'm not a cook, I'm a laundress. I'm not a travel agent. I'm not those things. That's not my identity. I'm a person with a full childhood developed. I've had relationships that are important to me. I've had jobs that are important to me. I've taken trips that are important. So just also trying to build on this connection of a relationship with my kids or other people in my life are important to me by talking about things like that that are, relevant to me. And, I would do the same for someone else. Hey, do you have any regrets? Like, do you have any things
Yeah.
that you wish went a different way? Not just like stuffing that down, like, no, I don't have any regrets, Kris. That's just not proactive. I don't want to regret anything. Well, of course you don't. Okay, great. Good for you. But I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to go through them so that I can release them in a productive way. So I thought that was helpful. And then just as I'm getting off the floor of regret, then there's the love is not always an open door, or love isn't an open door per se. And in that conversation, we were discussing a girlfriend of mine, just a little vignette of you don't realize how quickly your kids change from, say, they're a 13-year-old and then they're 14 and or they're 15 and then they're driving the next day, they get their license, you're like, wow, or they're 20 and the next day they go to a bar legally and they can, do whatever they want at that bar. These changes happen quickly. And that one was about, you have a child of whatever age who starts to get interested in dating or having a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they're over at your house because they don't drive yet, and they're over at your house and they say they're gonna watch a movie, and all of a sudden they're watching a movie and that you go to check on them or, "Hey, you want popcorn?" I don't know what the heck you're doing, and then the door is closed, right? So what do you do? What do you do? I mean, and I subsequently wow, at the moment I didn't have I mean, I have a bunch of kids, so it's not that I don't have any experience with this, but I didn't have the immediate experience with it, and then subsequently I have, and I really reflected on that conversation in my head because we talked about my view on that was just having the conversation with your kids. Do you have what you need to be making the decisions that you're being involved making with that door closed? And if you don't have or if you think you do, I'm going to give you a lecture right now and tell you what you need to know, unsolicited. So I think that was a really important episode to also grow ourselves up a little bit because it's so difficult to grow up as an adult when you're keeping your kids young. Like, you have to change, you have to evolve, you have to be part of their evolution, you can't be stuck and, "Oh, I wish they were young, and I wish it was so much easier then, and da, 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 da," and of course, when they're babies, you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait till they can get older and do this, that." So, I thought that was a fun episode to do, and you wove that whole conversation into dating also, and being able to bring up remember when you were talking about, like, how do you introduce like, you're gonna be introducing people to your kids too, and conceivably, or, your kids have boyfriends, girlfriend, you might have a boyfriend or girlfriend, how does that whole thing work, and, like, how does that play out? And you helped me a lot even being more flexible with that as a conversation because I just didn't at the moment. I definitely have more of it now, have flexibility for just what you said is being able to model a beautiful relationship for your kids, whatever the circumstances of your life are, right? There can be crazy circumstances where you can have like, some unsettled relationships or a messy divorce or an ex or whatever you've got. But being able to then take the positive part of that and say, there's an opportunity here to teach and to guide and to show through example of what it is
Mm,
to have a beautiful give and take relationship. So you were fundamental in that whole
mm.
conversation. I really appreciated that.
Thanks. Yeah, it still has some challenge for me because it's like, okay, he's someone, dating meets my son and, and then watching him how he reacts to that situation. And he wants to be included. And then I can also see like he wants to be included, but he doesn't want to be folded in. Right. It's like kind of like a back and
Ah,
forth,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He wants them
Yeah.
inside, but doesn't want to
Gosh,
be like,
business is such a great
woo,
example
bro.
of how these conversations keep going though too. I mean, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It's, and then saying, like, realizing it is important, for, me to not put my life on hold for him because I, again, wanna model him prioritizing his needs and what he needs, and to do that, I have to actually walk the walk. I have to do that. And it's
Yeah.
been really good for me to do that, and that is my area of growth. So, having that
Mhm.
conversation helps solidify things for me, and then also, um, held me accountable to actually do it, right? And to actually show
Yes.
up in the way that I wanna
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah. And still be in
And
an evolutionary conversation even now as you're talking about it. I can see you're still, like,
exactly.
moving through it. It's amazing,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I don't think, like, the interesting thing is that conversation's never done. It's never done.
Right.
And I don't
Yeah.
think the reverse of it of, like, it's never done for him to me either. Like, that conversation is ongoing, both sides, for
Mhm.
how I show up with or without a partner, how he shows up with or without a partner, like, how do we move through that as
Mhm.
individuals and as a mother and son? And,
Yeah.
it's it's not something that's, like, one answer. I think it has many and many layers, and I continue to look at that to try and unpack it every time I, like, brush up against it. Like, "Okay,
Yeah.
let's see what it's got today." So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was an awesome episode, and it just seems yeah, it's one of those that kinda seems like, oh, superficially, like, "Oh, the door was closed and da 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 da," but it actually just opened up a can of worms. Good worms, but opened up a can of worms. The kind that fertilize your garden and truly, just, in having to reflect on all of that, so I thought that was good. And then we talked briefly about my wanderlust, and this is actually a fun episode, I think, for those of us who just I mean, whether you got this because you're a traveler or you're just someone who dreams all the time, or you've got this, like, complicated, imagination about you or whatever, but being able to reel in that, "Hey, I'd love to go on Zillow. What else is going on over there?" "What's it like in Texas? What's it like in to move to Portugal as an expat?" And I totally do that, and in fact, I've done it less, or I've done it more intentionally, in in the way that I approach it even because I still think it's fun, and I obviously had to do a lot with my rental property to kinda get that up to speed, so I am on Zillow saying, "What's current?" "What do people do? What does it look like?" Like, how do they what kind of stuff do they put in there? I haven't done, any of that in a long time, so using it that way, but now also I even just kinda curtailing that, it's caused me even in that conversation, we were talking about being able to look at where you live and just really almost maxing out where you live, and as I've said, I live in Southern California, and so I made a commitment to just explore California, to be part of California, and I am actively doing that and actively reminding myself that I do live in an amazing part of the world as do you, right? And I want to be grateful for that, and I want to not be greedy that I don't have a much bigger house for a lot less money, or I don't have, like, all the seasons the way that exactly the way that I want my Glühwein or my mulled cider to be in the winter, like, no, I'm actually glad I just had to take a trip back east and it was really fun, but literally, I got off the plane and I thought, "I really need to consider if I would ever be comfortable living full time in a place that's this cold." Even though I love that city, I love everything about it, I love the living of it, but it's cold. It's very cold, and it's often cold, and that really just brought me back to grateful, grateful, grateful where I live. That doesn't mean I don't wanna ever live anywhere else ever, but just being grateful and also taking advantage of the opportunity, so that was a super helpful episode for me and for anyone who does kinda have that wanderlust, even whether you live where you live, your job, anything, it was important lesson to realize how much opportunity you have even within your own setting, right? Within your own situation, there's a lot of opportunity if you can change your mind and if you can change your perspective. You, right? You bring it. And that was a really important lesson for me and it's changed me for sure. So I love that.
Yeah. It's a good episode, because we create these amazing lives, and then sometimes we forget how amazing they are, right? Because we live them every
Yes.
day. And then you step out of
Exactly.
them and you come back in and
Mhm.
you're like, "I get to live this life." And it is pretty awesome.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, so the next one we recorded was, creative flow and getting stuff done, and that was where I was struggling, and it helped me so much to kind of unpack it and also acknowledge it, because I was feeling guilty that I wasn't being as productive as I wanted to be, especially in this project and this partnership, and it was also, like, stopping me from moving forward.
Yeah.
And some of it was just chatting about it with you.
Yeah, and you were kind of stuck, think, on even the perfectionism of it, and you wanted to have it right, and you want to have it done, and then not having time for it, and am I letting you down? That was another part, like the big piece of like, are you letting someone down? All this backstory, and the big takeaway from me for that was, yes, great. Rach has all this stuff going on, but the backstory on that was the perfectionism and not feeling like you were a creative person or not being given the accolades that you needed or the encouragement to create or to consider yourself, creative. And that is what stuck on that one for me because I felt like, all as humans, we're all creative and being able to acknowledge where you are creative was I thought that was a really important part. And just the concept of just getting stuff done and moving forward and B plus. B plus, B plus, B plus.
Be
We're
fun.
not trying to get A's here. We just want to get B plus and move it on. So yeah, I love that. And
Yeah.
then you taught us all about breakups.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. You became you became our resident expert in breakups. How to break up well, how to break up well according to Rachel.
And my sample size not very large, but learning. I think it's there is a process in the breakups because you are mourning a loss, and it was helpful to talk about them and how they can be very different with different breakups, and they also are very different given my current mind state, right? And one
Mhm.
of the things I now, when I think about this, like, is you have no idea how long a relationship's going to last ever.
Right.
So either it's going to be a moment, a season, or a lifetime, and you have no idea of knowing what that will be, and just being okay with that. And I get to lean into that and just trust that that is exactly what this is about, and
So
not
hard.
try to like get the answer
Mhm.
right away. That it'll get clear to me.
Yeah, I think the other part that you kind of brought about that is that there are these kind of natural ends to relationships that, you're like, you're thinking that, and the other person's thinking that, but no
Mhm.
one's talking about it. So, like, you
Yeah.
were kind of thinking that, the other guy's kind of thinking that, and then one of you brings it up, and then it's like, "Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. I've been thinking the same thing." Like, I've been kind of thinking, like, "How is this possibly gonna go through?" So I think that's kind of an important thing is just to be I guess, I mean, I certainly know when to lecture on this, but to just be comfortable that you might be worried about that conversation. That conversation is either gonna move you both forward, or it's gonna end it where it needs to stop, so it doesn't become a resentment and just a mess, right? And just
Right.
can be solved in communication. So I thought that was awesome. Yeah, if anyone's in that process, that breakup process, that is a really that's a really good episode. Not only like how to, but I just think just in that moment to get support because it's gotta be a stressful it's got even if it's a what you talked about is like a positive kind of breakup, it's still a breakup. You still have to go through the grief process. You still have
Mhm.
to, adapt your life to not making those phone calls and not, making a plan to be at
Yes.
their house for whatever. And so I think it was just a really supportive conversation. If anyone's in that situation right now, that's a good one to put on rewind a few times. I thought that was great. Oh, and then that came right after. Yes, oh my god, that's so funny. Yes, we kind of had a little theme going there, right? With like the
Yeah.
breakups and that, and then moving on to "G'day, date." Yeah, talking about being away and everything for your coming out party.
Yeah, yeah, talking about my first dates and how I chose to approach them, and it's so funny when we were talking about them because I was like, I didn't it just, like, a appeared for me, I wasn't like, "I'm gonna plan this trip, and in this trip, I'm gonna have my first dates." It just kind of did that in a beautiful, supportive way. Ironically, you were there for for
Yeah,
them
I know.
too.
Ironically, I'm like a little, like the little pirate bird. Rachel, come here.
I
Go
know,
on,
like,
that
when
was so
it's like sending me
fun.
off on my way.
Oh my god, it's
Like,
the best. I know, like
which
the little fairy godmother, the fairy date
yeah.
mother.
And after our conversation on there, I was like, "God, it was so helpful to have you there, to have a girlfriend there, like being a cheerleader. Like, you got this. Go for it.
I
You
can
look great.
imagine.
You got this." And I'm like, "Okay, I got this. Coach says I got this."
I was like,
And
"You've got this range because there's no way I could ever have this, so off you go. You look amazing. Go."
oh yeah.
Go team," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm benched for this for this game. This is so hard." Yeah,
Yeah. But I think what I got a lot from talking about it is it was very helpful to go through that and to do it in a
mhm.
very like mindful way in a place that I felt very secure in and
Yeah,
like
safe and
just
yeah,
okay with stepping into that space and then leaving it behind and being okay with
right.
that, and then
Yeah,
deciding what's next. I'm not committing to like being in the dating world and forever after that or whatever. It was just like, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try it on over here where no one knows me, where nothing
yeah,
can follow me back. It's on a different,
right.
it's even in a past the
Birthdays. Yeah,
date line. Like,
totally.
it's a different day there.
That's ironic, Rach.
I know.
You had
So
to cross the date line to go on dates.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
funny.
True. Across the day line. So yeah, it was a fun experience to review those and how actually they really shaped me in my dating.
Yeah,
All of those shaped me so much, and they created a beautiful foundation for me to build upon, and continues to hold that view, that positivity, that curiosity, because the people I met experiencing that were amazing and gave me a lot of information that I'm still using today.
yeah. Yeah,
And
like your Jedi
I
guy,
know.
telling you all about stuff, like you're gonna have to, date so many people, you're gonna have to kiss
Yeah.
some people, or you're gonna have to do this, that, and the other. I think, yeah, you had a lot of good just feedback on that whole thing. And again, it's like if someone's in that setup. But that okay, I don't wanna spoil that one because there's a lot of good stuff in there. If someone's, like, thinking about jumping back into the dating, so that's another episode that I had feedback from friends who were like, "Wow, that's just really helpful to get encouragement for ways to think about or ways to do" even younger friends, even, like, people's, assistants or whatnot that I run into, I'm talking to, younger women in their 20s really were helped by that concept and that discussion because you get so insulated. You're like, oh, all the guys here are terrible. They all suck, whatever, wherever you live. It doesn't matter. Like we're all saying that about everyone else's guys or girls or whatever. And just being able to be a little more flexible with, your geography, but really it's your mental geography, right? Because there's somebody that you're just missing. So, yeah, I thought that was a super awesome episode, which led right into our talking about which is this. If I have to say honestly, Rach, one of the more, if not the most impactful, maybe people pleasing is coming up too, but this episode about relationships and harmony, disharmony, repair as a theme of relationships and how to navigate that, especially the repair aspect. This was a massively impactful episode for me as a host. It just being able to listen. I had a little vignette about friendships that broke up many, many years ago, and but being able to go through that harmony, disharmony repair and what does true repair look like and why
Mm.
is it so essential and how to evaluate if you have someone who's willing to be in repair with you or not. And I just thought you did a beautiful job there. And truthfully, that topic, as a concept and as a teaching was so helpful to me. And I would really put that in my top two, maybe top three for sure of our episodes in terms of impact, for sure.
Yeah. And it is definitely the one that I lean into on a weekly basis, that concept, right?
Yeah.
Anytime, even within me, the disharmony that goes on, but also
Mhm.
between my family, between, relationships, partnership, you know, my son and I, like in framing it in that way. It helps me stay focused on what is it I'm trying to achieve. And also being
Yes.
comfortable in the disharmony, like just
Yeah.
being comfortable in the disharmony and not
Yeah.
trying to rush out of it. Like, let's get out of this joint.
Or I'm
Just
out of
like
here. I need a walk. Or I mean, yes, sometimes you do, but yeah, yes, yes, yes.
right.
Just to sit. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that, like, there were so many elements in there that really very helpful, and again, I forget the name of that one. It's got some clever name to it, about, something on drums and something on this.
Yeah, and I
Remember? I
think the
don't remember. So
disharmony of drums,
it might be a little hard like, find, but we can put it in the notes for sure, because
yeah,
that one, it's about what is it? 1, 4, 5, 6, 7,
it's
8,
number
9, 10,
12.
12. Episode
Yeah,
12. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm,
Yeah, so that
good
was
one.
helpful.
And then we had your stress-free holiday, which was like, let me tell you, would help me set up my holidays.
Oh, can I tell you, I was, like, literally, doing my tree and got my tree. By the way, my holiday picture got done. I got my canvas, like, not even a week later, my holiday card, done. Check, 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 like, just killing it. Get my tree's sitting there for, like, a week, but remember even in that episode, I was like, "Get your tree up. Great. Genius. You win. Get some lights on it. Another miracle.
Right.
Is a star on top or a decoration? You're fantastic. You did such a great job. Give
Yeah.
yourself a pat on the back." And honestly, I sat there with that tree and I was like, you know what though? This tree is beautiful. I got a really beautiful tree. I had a great experience getting it. I love this garden shop that I go to here called Armstrong. Maybe they're all around the country. I don't know. But here in Southern California, we have Armstrong's Garden Centers, and they don't sponsor this podcast, but they do an amazing job of their holiday stuff. And they have really good Christmas trees. And I get them there every year. And I get one flocked and I get one, non-flocked for inside. And it's beautiful. And I was like, wow, it's really pretty. And then eventually we put the lights on. I was like, it's even prettier. Look at that. And then eventually, however many days later, I was like, oh, maybe I'll decorate it. Sure. The kids, I was like, oh, I should wait for the kids. Oh, they probably want to do this or they want to have a decorate. No, they're like, oh, it looks great, mom. Like, okay, done. Check, 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 check. So yeah, that was all about B plus. All about your one bag of Halloween, your one box of Christmas. Get it done or don't get it done. Don't be yourself. B plus, B plus, B plus. Have some systems. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was all over that, and I still am because it's just still in me, and I'm thinking about it consciously and how I set up everything. Yeah.
Yeah. We went to go get a tree and, in Hawaii, it's not always the easiest place to find a tree. And we looked and we couldn't find anybody. And then I had to travel last week. And so I said to my son, I was like, okay, if we really want a tree, they're going to get somewhere in next week. You have to go do it on your own. Like, go get it on
Oh,
your own, bring it home on your own. If it's that important to you and we don't like the trees that are here, like, that's our option. He was like, okay. And I came home and there was a tree
oh,
set
amazing.
up, like,
Oh
in
my
its
gosh.
stand, and he's like, "I couldn't get it totally straight." I was like, "I'm here to help you straighten it, but, like, hello. Like, that was, like,
That's
amazing.
amazing. Yes.
And, and we
Made for
decorated
10
it.
Jewish kids, Rach.
Yeah, amazing. And you know what? And he was super proud because he, like, negotiated with the guy, and the guy's like, "I'll give it to you for this much if you pay cash." He's like, "Alright," and D comes home with, like, a great deal on a tree, and it looks great, and we decorated most of it together, and then I had to finish it up the next day because it got too late, but it's up, it's done. I have my Hanukkah in a box, and then I have 1 box for Christmas. I
Perfect.
got them all out and done, and then I got it done. I looked around and I was like, "Phew, okay."
Yeah,
And it
exactly,
just
and then you can enjoy it, and then just enjoy whatever's there. It's like and like you said, you're not making your homemade whatever buckwheat from France and whatever, you've gotta turn it like, this has to be done at this night and this, that, da, da. It was great. I think that episode really just let us all off the hook for the perfectionism, for the overdoing, for the overfunctioning, for the all the ways that I think we have probably when you have younger kids, you just kinda stress about that stuff a little bit longer. Maybe it's just easier, but it's all self-inflicted, and I love that episode just to be able to be like, "Chill." And then we moved on to,
people pleasing.
people pleasing, which I said I didn't know anything about, and you had to take over that entire episode.
This is my bag.
It's hilarious. I love it.
Oh, it is deep within me, and it is still my work, and, and I see how we're different in this way in a lot of ways, and then I see where we overlap, and there are degrees, like, after that conversation, I realized there are degrees of people pleasing, and
Oh,
some people
yeah,
are
and
like,
different
"I don't
types. I
have
feel like
any."
different types of it. Yeah, different
Yes.
types, different degrees, different scales, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was helpful to, own it, go through it, and to talk about it because it still brushes up against some of like what I was raised of like don't prioritize me and prioritizing me over others seems selfish. That's like kind of what I was taught, and so now I'm get to brush up against that and really evaluate that, and I think I do that on at least a weekly basis, if not daily.
Yeah, it's the evaluation, you mean?
The evaluation, yeah. The
Yes,
checking
yes,
in, like, "Am I doing this for
exactly. Thank you.
me?"
Me
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I
Am I
really because remember I was like, "I don't even know." I think I'm and I do believe there are like you said, there are degrees and there are areas when I think I'm very comfortable in confrontation. I really don't have a difficult time there. So from pleasing from that standpoint, but I'm not able to consistently prioritize my needs, prioritize myself, and then put my own oxygen mask on first and then go to whatever. I'm very consistently looking around to say, "How is everyone else doing? Is everyone else okay? Oh, no." And if I even get to myself, oftentimes I don't even get to myself. So that element in that conversation was really, really helpful. I felt like that was a good conversation for any even if you think you're not a pleaser, it's a good kind of recap, I believe, to take a listen to it on 2 double time, whatever, just, get to the point where it's like, "Oh, I got wait a minute," I could use some support on that. So, yeah,
Mm.
I thought that was super helpful. I love that. I love that episode. That's another one I feel like in my top 3.
I think that that one is definitely up there for me too. That one is a because it's a big part of, you know, my stuff right now. And it was helpful to digest it, and to pull it apart to realize that there are degrees and different types, and I can't just lump it all into one. And it's too overwhelming when I do lump it all into one. It's
Right.
like, "Ah, it's everywhere." And now I'm like,
Right,
"Okay."
and then you take it on, you feel like kind of more of a loser, you feel like, "Well, oh, now I'm even more pleasing," and you take on way too much if you can kinda chunk that. I felt like you did a good job in that, being able to chunk it as we were working through. Yeah, that was a high impact, high impact.
Mm. Ooh, then we have, designing your happiness and, like, the economy, the function of happiness, and how do we look at that? It's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, that we were looking at you had sent me an article on, uh,
The economy of
uh,
happiness.
The Economy of Happiness, maybe that's what the article was called, but it was about a book called Having It All,
Mhm.
and so subsequently, I have finished that book, Having It All. I highly recommend it to any woman who is out there trying to have it all, trying to she talks about, breastfeeding in the frickin' train station back east, we all, if you work back east, that commute and all that stuff too, and just trying to make everything work, and at some point you're like, "Wait a minute, like, what am I doing commuting 2 hours to work?" I did so funny that she's doing that. I did it without kids. I can't even imagine trying to do it with a baby, those hour plus long commutes on the train, get on the subway, get on the train, get there, you're walking or whatever, somehow getting to your office, and somewhere along there, breastfeeding has to happen. So it was crazy just how much mental load is given to women. So that's kind of the backstory of that. But I think it wasn't so much a dissection of that book as much as it was a conversation to say, what is it? How do you define what makes you happy? And then to be responsible for your own happiness, for making yourself happy and not projecting onto other people or not making it wrong, your spouse's fault or your kid's fault or, your boss or whoever, that you don't have the life that you want. And that's what brought forth very powerfully for me in that conversation was what am I what am I truly going to commit to being responsible for in terms of my happiness? What do I want, first of all, which I'm not trained to do, as we just discussed, has previously asked and answered, just talked about that. I'm not trained to say like, "Oh, I want this, and I want it to go like that, and no, I'm gonna have it like this." Like you and I think are very similar in that it's almost like we were raised in a way where that's like selfish. Like of course we have to think about other people. How does this impact other people? And I talk to my kids like you're not the only person in the world. There are systems and societies that have impact from your decisions and your choices. So, yeah, as long as you're not, driving down, speeding with the 14 beers in your system and running over, other cars, I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of look for what is it's going to make you happy and how can you be responsible. And that book does a great job of telling you why it's happening, giving you the data and the information about what might be going on for you. And then really what we were able to do in our conversation is to push it to what are you gonna be responsible for? And what are you gonna be happy about? What are you gonna say is happiness? How are you gonna qualify it? And then what are you gonna say? So, yeah, I thought that was really helpful. Very helpful as a conversation.
Yeah. It helped frame it for me, and helped me look at, like, what are my values, right? Like,
Yes.
what brings me joy, what brings me happiness, like, how do I find that, and how am I really trying to address those every day? Like, really
Mhm.
mindfully making space for those and realizing these other things don't take a priority even though I think that they do.
Well,
That
that's true because remember, even in that you did our dissection, which was so great about, chunking your time. How much
yeah,
time do I really spend doing this? Is that making me happy? Do I need to take this extra exercise class? Does that get me to this level of
yeah,
happiness that I'm trying to get to because I need to work out more? No. So, even those time bleeds, you did a good job even of showing us where the energy and the time bleeds come when we're not doing things that are either aligned with our values or then consequently creating happiness for us. And then again, being responsible for saying, "You know what? I'm gonna drop that class. I'm not gonna keep doing that." So that was helpful because that was a very concrete example of change. I love that.
mm. Alright, so that brings us to overfunctioning.
How long is this podcast so far? Do you do you have another 3 hours?
Oh,
Oh my
real
gosh, so there's these
yeah,
words in the dictionary that honestly just scare me, and I feel like if this word is in the dictionary is it 2 words? I don't even know. If this word is in the dictionary, I feel like I should not have that dictionary because it just like, it would just extend the volumes of my of my
yeah,
encyclopedia way, way, way too far, so over functioning. What I loved about this honestly though, and you can pick it up from here, was just
mhm,
reclaiming your energy because of the
yes,
bleed, the bleed, the bleed, the constant bleed of energy in worrying about everyone else and making sure, and what I've come to realize, even Rach, this week, literally this week, because these concepts keep flowing through. I had never attributed this over functioning to a generational concept, and someone in the last couple days brought this up to me and recommended a book just randomly. We're just having a girlfriend conversation. Recommended a book to me about, a Gen X, like a Gen X conversation about how, when we were raised culturally, we were just doers. We just
Mhm.
we had to do stuff for ourselves all the time, you know? You didn't like, your parents weren't driving you here, and they weren't signing that extra permission slip, and they weren't, and they weren't, and they weren't. And it's interesting because I told her, I said, "That's so fascinating, and I'm gonna look into it," because I always just viewed it as a personality trait of mine, almost a defect that I'm a producer. You know, produce,
Mhm.
produce, 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 get stuff done, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so even to think about it more globally as a cultural context of whatever you were
Mhm.
raised and what kind of, and we're all believing that we're all drinking the Kool-Aid, right? We're all in that
Yes.
same sphere. So, and the anxiety that comes from not doing that when you have been doing that your whole life, and all of your cohort has also been doing that their whole lives, right? So it just seems normal. That was even as that conversation was expanded recently outside of our podcast, it was very helpful. So yeah, this is a big topic.
It is for me too, and to see where I am over functioning in my life, right? And how that um it's like an energy sucker. I was like, I have no idea how else to describe it. Like,
Energy
oh
sucker. Yes,
yeah.
totally.
And it really breaking it down and talking it through, like talking through it and seeing how it actually like the more impacts it has on me. We could spend hours on this one, and they'll probably will come up again as another podcast
Yeah, and it's
because
almost like
it's
it defeats the point.
I know we can't overfunction on this one,
Right?
Chris.
It would
We
defeat
gotta
the
just
purpose if we even talk about it. It's like over functioning, just listen to the pod. Like,
yeah.
just that's the topic, the title's right. You don't need us to tell you anything more. It's just
Uh,
yeah, and by the way, don't think that you're immune because you're probably in that pot somehow. Like,
yeah.
somehow your story is in there because it really, I feel like that resonates for so many of us, for sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
overfunctioning for me is definitely in the top 3 for me of those podcasts. But then it goes
Same.
on to our
Yeah,
next one.
top 3 pods. Mhm.
We have 2 left. We have What is Money For?
Yeah, the next one's kind of in my top also, and I'll give you a little update on that, yeah.
Yeah.
The next run of money stories. Yeah, because I had my unfortunate, you need to spend a gajillion dollars fixing this thing that you didn't know you had to fix because I had a slab leak in my house, and I had this emergency that I had to deal with for the second time in 4 or 5 years, 3, 5, I don't even know when the last one was, and so then you have to do the quote unquote right thing and, you know, do the big, big, big fix. But it just brought up so much emotion about the things that I can spend money on and how I make these decisions and why I make these decisions, and being in alignment or not alignment with your partner, being in alignment or not alignment with your kids and the way that they spend money or have jobs or don't have jobs, or honestly on and on and on. And then just last night, Rach, we're talking about as these conversations continue. So I'm still stewing in that whole money conversation. You know, it's a very recent episode. And last night, 2 nights ago, I'm at the Barnes and Noble with my son, and picking up a couple things for him, and he's, you know, shopping CDs or whatever he likes to get there. And I picked up this book called The Art of Spending Money, which is by the same guy who wrote The Psychology of Money, which is an often recommended, we should have probably put that in the pod as well, an often recommended book for people just to understand their relationship with money, the psychology of money, and that this one was written, The Art of Spending Money. And I was like, that is a book for me. Yes. Because just like we were talking about, you know, with functioning or pleasing or any of that, lining that up to your values, this was about lining it up to your values. And then, you know, kind of, and I haven't finished the book, so I can't give my full report yet. I will write the book report and put it in a later pod. But just to start being clear on how you spend your money and why and what's it for, and then, you know, all these things that we discussed in the pod. Super interesting.
Yeah, and that money story for me, I even before we just got on this call, I was on the phone with my financial guy, which made me really late for this. And,
Mm.
but it was
End
like
of year. Yeah, end of year. I know.
and it's like I just was sitting there and I'm thinking, why does this get me going every time? Right? Like why does like, and it's like, what is my story? And I think I came to the conclusions I was on the phone with him and I think he's used to just talking numbers. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. I'm like, I don't think I know enough because if for me, information is power. And if I don't know how all this stuff works,
Yeah.
I'm not ever really comfortable. So I'm like, I need to learn more. Tell me what resources I need to use and how do I need to understand this? Because that's how I'm going to change my money story. And that's the key is like taking the power out of it and understanding it for me so I can then reset the stage. And that conversation was really helpful for me because it still is much a part of my mind, as things have shifted in my world,
Mhm.
that I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to understand this completely and fully. And that is definitely, I said these are in the top couple. This one is definitely up there because I think it is a big,
Yeah, this one's in the top 5 for sure. Yeah.
a big
Yeah,
one.
for sure. I agree. Yeah, and it was just thrown in my face with that big repair, but that's why I said that, and even as we were talking, I don't know if you remember, like, it was super emotional, and not like I'm crying emotional, but, like, internally, my little internal workings were just fighting with each other, like, and, like, really uncomfortable because you're facing a lot of old stuff, new stuff, middle of the road stuff. So, yeah, for anyone who doesn't think they have a money story, pick up that podcast episode because that's really, difficult to go through, and just you can hear how we are both processing so much during that conversation. You can be asking yourself the same questions as you're listening and going through it. Yes, it's entertaining to listen to us and watch us, like, struggle, flail about, in the water,
Yeah.
but it might also be useful to look at it too. And then again, yeah, the psychology of money, and then the, art of spending money was an extra book. And then we talked about Why Now, we talked about budgeting apps, Rocket
Yes.
Money, whatever else is in there. There's a lot of little resources, that yeah, knowledge is power, and just being more specific. And then, yeah, there's so many good resources now just on money, but just not listening to too much. Get just enough information to help yourself, I would feel like,
Yes.
and not so much that you're just overwhelmed because there's so much information and everyone's telling you to
Exactly.
do crypto or Bitcoin this, or,
Right.
you're like, "I don't even understand that." So, yeah, it's like just not to confuse the issue. So, yeah, I agree. Top 5 for me.
Hmm.
And then the last one right before
Well,
our
actually, we
recap
have 2 now that
was
I think about this, because we have the next
oh,
one, which is our, like, New Year's word of the year, wrapping up the year, and then we have
yes.
our last one that comes out, so
Oh, that's right. Oh,
yeah,
I
we
forgot.
can't forget
That's
that
right.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have 2 more to discuss. So then that brings us to the word of the year story, which is, we're wrapping up our year here, and what do you want next year to look like? And I've been doing this forever, or not forever, for the last couple of years, and it's been super helpful. And it thought it would be fun to share it and talk about it. And I know you felt pressure for picking one word for next year. And
I did. So much pressure.
do you still feel pressure?
No, actually, you know what? I let it go because, yeah, I feel pressure, but I also feel like, well, what the hell? No one's gonna, there's no grade on this. I'm not gonna, no one's gonna say like you
B
failed and
plus.
you have to move out of your house and you're now gonna become, like, I don't know, homeless. Like, there's no, that, from this word, there's other things could happen in my life, but for this thing, yeah, no, 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 I was able to choose my word, and I'm not gonna announce it yet because I still feel like I need to hold that a little bit close. But, I mean, if you listen to the pod, you can probably guess what my word might possibly be. But I was just saying, even on that pod, it was good because I'm not someone who is super clear on the end of the year, like, let's make a resolution, and we talked about the people in the gym on January 1st that drive me crazy because I'm working out all the time and not like, oh, I'm such a good workout person, but just like, yes, I'm there at the gym. And then they come in and they're like, all the slots are full for all of January. And then it eases off in February and it's all good again. But yeah, just having the ability to kind of take a reflection. I love your word of the year because that centers it. And even if you don't want to choose a word a year, just the process of thinking about a word that you could possibly attribute to a year's time was really helpful. And just like all that kind of like what we're even doing here in a recap, just taking the moment to kind of recap what was good, how do you want to change things? What's going to be your theme for next year? What other things do you want going on? That was great. Super
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah. And I don't, so it's funny because I was like, I'm not ready to disclose my word yet either because I am not sure. Like, I wait until I get there. And
Well, that's the other thing too. It's just kinda like naming your child, you don't wanna
yeah,
say it until at least I didn't, I'm very, like, superstitious that way, until, like, the moment I
yes,
have to write it down
same.
on the birth certificate, then I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, now I can tell people." Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way. And but it helped bring it back and remind me how important this is and to spend the time. But also to your
Yeah.
point, it's not that critical, right? Like no one I'm not gonna be graded on this. This word can or cannot stick with me. They happen to
Um,
stick with me every year. They happen
no one's
to
gonna know.
resonate through the whole year, but it doesn't mean that this year has to be that way. And I don't have to overfunction in picking my word of the year. But Yeah, that's a good one. If you're catching this and it's still we're early in the year or whatever, there you can pick a word of the year whenever you want. There's no hard fast rules here. So, which brings us to
That's
our
true, 'cause
last.
we talked also about it being a birthday thing. Remember that?
Mm,
Like, that was
yes.
another thing. It doesn't necessarily have to just be like, "Oh, oh, yay, it's New Year's," as a holiday. You can choose that day, any day of the year to kind of do
Yes.
a reboot on that, and if
Yeah.
you're into numerology, like you might be, nee, 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 then you'll have a different year. It won't be
Yeah.
it won't just be the year on the calendar that we use, yeah, so that was the other
Yes.
thing, it's like you have the ability to start it anytime, so yeah, that was great, I loved it. And then we talked about you wanna say it?
You can say it. There you go. Talked about
Friend
friendship.
friendships, um, we talked about friendships. Tell everybody, yes, and, oh, that was actually so fun because I was struggling with something, which like I always say at the end of these pods, it's not like I get off the pod and I'm like, "Yay, I'm done struggling." But that one I really felt like I moved a lot because I use a grateful, not greedy framework. I mean, I finally got to it, like, duh, that's the whole name of this podcast. I could just apply that right here, Chris, what do you think about that? Duh, really, like, felt like so moronic by the end of that because I thought, "How did I not get that, about 25 minutes ago, that all I have to do is come in here, slap a grateful, not greedy, license plate on this situation and change my framing and change my perspective. So that I'm struggling with a friend who I think we're friends. I think she thinks we're friends. I just don't know if she has the time for me, wants to have the time for me,
Yeah.
will ever prioritize me, won't ever prioritize me, etc. And I was able just to say, you know what? I'm grateful for those times that we have. We've had some very close discussions, honest discussions. I think I know her, pretty well just from interacting. And I was just like, you know what? Grateful. Grateful. Not greedy that she doesn't call me when she comes in town or she doesn't, text me hello that often. And I didn't make up a whole story about that. Didn't make that she was not a good friend or anything like that. It's just like I'm just grateful that we've had the friendship that we've had. And if that friendship is over unbeknownst to me, so be it. It's been a really nice friendship. And I would say that for a lot of my friendships throughout life.
Mm, that's really amazing. I it was helpful to
I
me
think you did a
to.
good job too, because you were talking about you had a lot of stuff in there too, even to
Yes.
evaluate a friend, like what,
Yeah.
like what is that friendship about? Do you have the same values?
Right.
It could be any reason that this is
Uh,
going the way it's going. Yeah.
it ties in, and I said this earlier, is the idea of we have friends for a moment, a season, a lifetime, and to remember that you just don't know.
Yes.
And you don't know if the purpose of
You
your
don't
friendship
know.
is done, and, like, letting go of friendships is a very hard thing, and it still is a hard thing for me to do, and I
That
still,
was a
like,
big theme
think.
on that pod.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is because, and I also think some of it we didn't hit too hard on this, but as you get older, it's not, I mean, it is a little harder to make friends. You're not like in college where you make friends, like, with everybody every day. So it gets a little bit older. As you
Right.
get a little older, it's a little harder. And then you also get clear on what you want and what you won't accept. Like before, when you're a kid, you're like, "Hey,
Yes.
we play together, great."
Yes.
Or you like baseball, I like baseball. Like, that's not enough for me now. Like, I actually want to connect. Like, I actually want to, understand you and you understand me. And it, it reminded me, like, that connection is very important to me, and also realizing that when I am able to connect with someone, that I value that highly, especially as I move through life, when I know
Yes.
that they don't come as often, as strong, and as important, but to also not grasp onto them.
Right.
That was a really good one, and,
Yeah. That was a
certainly
big
one
thing. That was a big thing.
that
The grasping it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one definitely raised my heart rate
Did
a
we
little
already
bit.
do top 5? I feel like that was a really helpful one. Yeah.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
feel like that was a really helpful one too,
Yeah,
just to kind of frame and it was that one picked up on a lot of the themes too, so just even if it's not friendships, you could apply it to family, you could apply it to, the coworkers or, because it was
absolutely.
really a relationship conversation, so I thought that
Yeah.
was super helpful. Which brings us to today and our whole recap on everything that we've done to get to this 20th episode, and, Rachel, just gotta say, good on us because it's about it's about starting. It's about walking through your fear. It's about not holding on to the perfectionism. It's about
Mm.
better done than perfect, right? And
Yeah.
it's about learning, and it's about trusting the process. And we are here because we are trusting the process, and it's a lengthy process. It is not easy to get these. It's also not impossible, but there's a commitment, and there's a work ethic, and there's a goal. There's all these things wrapped into getting a project like this off the ground and then keeping it in orbit. And I would just say to anyone who's thinking about any kind of project that they have, that it's just important to start. It's just important to put that first foot down and just keep walking, walking, walking. And you might take a detour and not realize that you could have just gone straight line and you went all around. Or like I was talking about with my rental property, it's 51st states. There's all this new learning curve, and I'm like tired of being on a new learning curve. That's what I tell myself. But then I'm like, but because of those new learning curves, I've grown so much, and I've learned so much. Even in the last, 6 to 12 months, I have grown tremendously. So, yeah, it's a process, and we made it to here, and good on us. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's like remembering B plus, B plus, B plus. Doesn't have to be perfect. And
Blood.
the like 99% of the effort here is showing up, like carving out the time. If you and I can get our time together, which is not
That's right.
easy, which is like sometimes is like quite the challenge, even
It's not
today.
easy.
It's not
No, we're
easy,
on
but
different time zones. We have different lives. Yeah.
totally. And we have the life swirling around us at the same time. So all of that, but I know our
Yes.
commitment and we show up, and that's where this is where the this is what created the momentum. Is like if I can just show up, if I can make this time, if you can make this
Mhm.
time, we can make this happen. And I tell students this all the time on the yoga mat. Like if
Yes.
you can just get yourself to class,
Yes.
that's 99% of the fight right there. The other is like just being in class, but like just to get there.
100%.
And I feel like that's what, has
Yeah.
happened here. We're just like, "We're just gonna get there. We're just gonna show up." And and that's a lot of the effort,
It's
and
kind of
so
true, even if you think about it, like, it is because it's the effort for us, it's also the effort for our listeners, because 'cause we're all part of the same tribe. I think about it
um,
like that. It's like, okay, it's an effort for us to get here. Yes, we get here and we have these conversations, but it's also you can gain so much. It's like going to one of your, college classes and showing up for, like, 2 lectures instead of 20. Well, you're going to get more by adding that information together and cross-pollinating it and linking it together and being like, "Oh, yeah, remember we talked about that, and that reminds me of this, and then this way I can learn about this." I feel like it's the same with our pod. So, as, like, a listener, the commitment is if you download it and listen to it on the plane, if you listen to it double time, if you listen to it, 20-minute chunks, or, before you go to bed, or like on your morning walk or on your commute, or miss an episode, say, okay, I'm just going to forget that one because B plus, B plus, B plus, I'm going to catch the next one, whatever it is, because that cumulative effect is real. We are seeing it. You and I are testaments that it works. And grateful, not greedy as a concept works. And we are living it out, and we're living it out in real time on these pods, as we talk about all these various topics. But the theme of grateful, not greedy is something that is consistent. It is there, and the opportunity is there for perspective shifts every day, constantly, almost every hour, and the growth opportunities are there, and you can just pick and choose, what you're available for on any given day. So that to me has been super exciting, and I would just encourage anyone who has found any one of these episodes, if it's helped you, like you said, Rach, in the beginning, if it has helped one person, and then I'm like, is that one person me? Is that am I the one? Am I the sample of one? Am I the one person? Because it's definitely helped me so, so much to take the moments and the cumulative moments to reflect on all of these various topics and how I'm approaching life and how I'm taking responsibility for my for my personhood in the world and how I'm showing up and what I'm giving and getting and all those things. So I have you to thank for that. And I definitely have everyone who listens to thank for that, because but for them, this doesn't keep evolving and keep moving and keep, we get feedback, we get information, we, read a different article because of that constant interaction. So grateful. So with that, I will say that has been, is, and forever will be the Grateful Not Greedy podcast. This has been a fun little recap of our various episodes, and we look forward to seeing you next time when we will be covering the next most important topic. So aloha, Rach.
Aloha, Kris.